Hospital workers. What regrets do you hear from dying patients? He was one of those old school men, lean, quiet, with hands like tree bark and a voice that sounded like gravel. The kind of man who didn't talk much unless he had something worth saying. His name was Ray. He was in his late 80s and had spent most of his life working the same stretch of farmland in the Midwest. Never married, no kids, just acres of soil and a few head of cattle. I was his hospice nurse for the last month of his life. He had a malignant melanoma on the side of his neck, and by the time he came to us, it had grown into something we could no longer pretend was to him. It was a slow, painful process, and even though he never complained, I could see it in his face. He moved a little slower each day. He got quiet in a different way. We kept him as comfortable as we could. He never wanted much. Coffee in the morning, the radio on low volume near his bed. Sometimes I'd find him humming along to old country songs, ones I'd never heard, like they were buried in the soil the same way he'd been. One night, he couldn't sleep. I was making rounds, and when I peeked in, his eyes were open. I asked if he needed anything, and he just said, "Nah, just thinking." I pulled up a chair and sat next to him. It was one of those nights where the ward was quiet. Most of the patients were sleeping, and we had a lull in the usual chaos. He stared at the ceiling for a while, then turned his head slowly toward me and asked, "You ever look back and wish you did something different?" I didn't answer right away. I asked him if he did. He thought about it for a second, then said, "I should have worn a damn hat." I must have looked confused because he gave a short, raspy chuckle. He pointed at the tumor bulging on his neck. "That sun cooked me for 60 years straight. Never thought much of it, just didn't like the feel of hats. Thought they were for city folk." He wasn't bitter, just matter of fact. That was his regret. Not love lost, not family missed, not travel or adventure. Just a hat, a brim between him and the sun. He said it again, almost to himself. A damn hat. That's all it would have taken. We sat there in silence for a bit, the kind of silence that doesn't need filling. The next day, he asked if someone could bring in one of his old hats. His neighbor eventually found one stuffed in a box in his shed, an old, sweat-stained ball cap with a tractor logo. We cleaned it off and put it on his nightstand. He didn't wear it, just wanted to see it. Said it made him feel better somehow, like he'd made peace with the thing that had followed him quietly for years. Ray passed away a little over a week later. Peaceful early morning. I was there when he went. I made sure the radio was playing and that his hat was close by. Of all the patients I've seen go, his regret always stuck with me. It wasn't dramatic or heartbreaking in the traditional sense, but it was honest, simple, real. A farmer who gave everything to his land, who didn't ask for much, who just wished he'd worn a hat.